The wind howled across the jagged cliffs, carrying the scent of salt and storm. Far below, the waves crashed against black rocks, relentless and cold. On the highest peak, a lone figure cloaked in gray watched the horizon, his eyes sharp and calculating. This was Kalen, the last of the Storm Riders, a clan believed destroyed decades ago. His gaze shifted toward the distant city of Valdereth. Its walls gleamed under the early morning sun, but within, whispers of betrayal and unrest stirred. Rumors spoke of stolen crowns and broken alliances. Kalen knew the balance of power was fragile, and one wrong move could bring death. Descending the cliffs with careful precision, memories of his past filled his mind. Days spent training under his father, nights learning strategy and survival. Every scar he bore was a lesson etched into his body. Today, those lessons would be tested. Meanwhile, inside Valdereth, Lady Aracela prepared for the council meeting. Her thoughts raced through alliances, feuds, and the fragile trust holding the council together. Every decision could secure her power or destroy it. Loyalty in this city was fleeting, like morning mist. The first counselor entered the hall with a low bow. "My lady," he said, "rumors of the Storm Riders' return spread through the northern villages. People speak of shadows rising again." Aracela's eyes narrowed. "Then we prepare," she replied, her voice steady. "If they come, we meet them not with fear, but with fire." Outside the city gates, a rider approached, his horse's hooves echoing like distant thunder. He handed a sealed scroll to the guards. Aracela broke the seal and read quickly. Her eyes flickered with concern. The message was simple yet foreboding. The Storm Riders remember. They come for what is theirs. Prepare for the night when shadows rise. Night began to fall, and the city that had seemed alive by day grew silent. Torches flickered along the walls as guards patrolled, unaware of the eyes watching from the darkness. Among the trees lining the outskirts, Kalen paused, listening. The march of his hidden army had begun, each step deliberate, each shadow a silent promise of what was to come. The first whispers of change stirred through Eldoria. Loyalties would soon be tested, secrets revealed, and a storm of vengeance and hope would sweep across the land. The winds carried the promise of legends being born, and the city slept, unaware of the coming night. As darkness deepened over Valdereth, the city's streets grew quiet, save for the distant clatter of a lone patrol. Lady Aracela stood by her window, staring at the horizon where the cliffs met the restless sea. Her mind raced with possibilities, each one more dangerous than the last. The Storm Riders' return was no idle threat. In the council hall, murmurs of fear had begun to spread. Counselors whispered among themselves, questioning loyalties and old rivalries. Some spoke of summoning reinforcements from neighboring kingdoms, while others argued for caution. Aracela listened silently, weighing each word, calculating every potential move. Beyond the city walls, Kalen moved with his men through the forest, their presence almost invisible under the cover of night. Every leaf underfoot, every crack of a branch was carefully measured. The soldiers were disciplined, shadows among shadows, and their leader's resolve was unshakable. This night marked the first step in reclaiming what had been taken from them. A sudden howl echoed through the trees, a warning of predators or perhaps an omen. Kalen's hand rested on the hilt of his sword, his senses alert. "Stay silent," he whispered to his men. "The city believes itself safe, but tonight it will learn otherwise." Inside Valdereth, Aracela lit a single candle, its flame flickering like a heartbeat. She unfolded an ancient map, tracing the northern roads with her finger. She knew the Storm Riders' territory well, and the thought of their approach sent a shiver through her. Yet fear would not rule her. Every decision, every move had to be precise. The wind shifted outside, carrying the faintest sound of movement from the cliffs. Kalen paused, listening. The first scouts had reached the outskirts, reporting back in whispers. The city's defenses were strong, but not invincible. And tonight, the shadows would test them as the hour grew late. Both the hunter and the hunted prepared in their separate worlds. One for vengeance, the other for survival. The night was young, but the first threads of a war were already being woven, invisible yet binding all who would play a part. The moon climbed higher over Valdereth, casting silver light across the city walls. From the shadows, Kaelin's scouts returned, their faces tense but determined. They had observed the city's patrol patterns and reported every weak point. Kaelin listened carefully, his mind already forming a plan. Every movement had to be precise. There was no room for error. Inside the city, Lady Aracela moved through the quiet corridors of her family's estate. The faint creak of her boots echoed softly as she approached the armory. Weapons had been laid out in careful order, swords sharpened, arrows fletched, and armor polished. The Storm Rider's return was a threat she could not ignore, as she intended to be ready. Meanwhile, in the forest, Kaelin spoke to his lieutenants in hushed tones. "We do not strike blindly," he said. "Our ancestors reclaimed what was stolen with strategy, not brute force. We honor that tradition tonight." His words were met with solemn nods. The Storm Riders were not a band of marauders. They were a force shaped by loss, discipline, and a thirst for justice. The city's night watch passed silently through the streets, unaware of the movements in the darkness beyond the gates. In one narrow alley, a single figure paused, listening. Kaelin's presence was felt even without sight, a shadow moving through another shadow. Back in the council hall, Aracela convened a small group of trusted advisors. "We must prepare for the unexpected," she said, her voice steady. "The Storm Riders are not like other enemies. They strike with precision and vanish before we can respond. We will strengthen the gates and guard the northern walls, but we must also anticipate their strategy." The hours dragged on, tension growing with each passing moment. Outside, the first signs of the Storm Riders' approach stirred the air. The rustle of leaves, the faint snapping of branches. It was subtle, but Kaelin's army moved as one, shadows merging with darkness. As midnight approached, the first flickers of light from torches appeared on the city outskirts. Scouts reporting from the cliffs signaled that the city was aware, yet unprepared for what was coming. Kaelin's eyes gleamed under the moonlight. Tonight, history would remember the return of the Storm Riders, and Valdereth would awaken to a force it had long forgotten. The northern wind cut through the streets of Valdereth, carrying an uneasy chill that seemed to whisper of coming danger. Lady Aracela moved through the council hall once more, reviewing the city's defenses. Guards had been doubled along the walls, and archers positioned on the battlements, yet a gnawing doubt remained. The Storm Riders were not ordinary invaders. Their knowledge of strategy and terrain made them unpredictable and deadly. Outside the walls, Kaelin surveyed the city from the forest edge. His army had formed a silent circle, each warrior poised, breathing steady, awaiting his command. The plan was simple yet risky. A distraction on the southern gate while a select group infiltrated from the northern cliffs. Timing and coordination would decide victory. In a dimly lit alley, Aracela's trusted captain moved among the guards, ensuring every patrol was alert. "Do not underestimate them," she had instructed. "The Storm Riders strike where we are weakest, and they vanish before we even notice." The captain nodded, his face taut with focus, understanding the gravity of the night. Kaelin stepped forward, signaling the first group. Shadows moved like ghosts along the tree line, silent and purposeful. The faint glimmer of moonlight reflected off blades as they advanced. Each soldier knew their role, each step part of a choreography honed over decades. Inside Valdereth, Aracela lit another candle, tracing her fingers over a worn map. Her mind raced through possibilities, calculating the enemy's next move. She could feel the tension in the city, the anticipation of something inevitable. Her people slept unaware, but the night was far from peaceful. Suddenly, a distant horn echoed across the cliffs, a warning from Kaelin's scouts. He paused, considering the signal. It was time. The first movement toward the city had begun. The shadows advanced, swift and deliberate, each step bringing them closer to the walls they had long watched from afar. The city held its breath, unaware that history was about to shift in the dead of night. Aracela steeled herself, knowing that what happened in the next hours could define the future of Valdereth and the legacy of the Storm Riders forever. The first sounds of movement reached the city walls, subtle rustlings, almost indistinguishable from the night wind. Lady Aracela peered through a narrow slit in the battlement, straining her eyes toward the northern cliffs. Nothing yet revealed itself, but she sensed the Storm Rider's presence, a shadow creeping closer with every heartbeat. Kaelin's warriors advanced carefully, stepping over rocks and through undergrowth, their figures blending into darkness. No torchlight betrayed their path. They were ghosts, trained to strike unseen, to leave only whispers in their wake. Kaelin raised a hand, signaling a halt. His scouts had reported a patrol near the northern gate. Timing would decide whether this encounter remained a test or a warning. Within the city, Aracela organized her archers, sending orders with precision. "Hold your positions. Do not fire until I command," she instructed, her voice calm but resolute. Each archer nodded, understanding the weight of discipline in the night. Mistaking haste for courage could cost them everything. From the cliffs, Kaelin watched the city's lights flicker softly, the torches casting long, trembling shadows. His plan required patience. The first wave would distract the guards at the southern gate, drawing attention away from the northern cliffs where he and his elite would move unseen. The distant horn from the southern gate broke the silence. Aracela's heart raced, knowing the signal that Kaelin's strategy had begun. She adjusted her focus, redirecting troops to meet the unseen threat, while keeping her mind sharp for the unknown attack from the north. As the night deepened, the tension between hunter and hunted grew almost unbearable. The city held its breath, unaware that the first threads of a struggle between vengeance and survival were weaving through the darkness. Every shadow held a promise, every movement a potential disaster, and the clash that would shape Eldoria's destiny was only beginning. The southern gate erupted in sudden commotion as Kaelin's diversion began. Shadows darted along the walls, torches flaring as city guards reacted to the unexpected disturbance. The noise drew attention away from the northern cliffs, just as Kaelin had planned. His elite warriors moved silently, slipping past the trees, every step measured and precise. Lady Aracela's sharp eyes caught the movement at the southern gate. "Hold the line," she commanded, steadying her archers. "Do not let panic take control. Respond only to what you can see clearly." Her voice cut through the chaos, a pillar of order amid the rising tension. That Kaelin's scouts advanced closer to the city walls, careful to avoid the alert guards. The northern cliffs provided a perfect vantage, and from there, they could see the patrol's movements and identify weak points. Kaelin's mind raced through strategy and contingency, anticipating every reaction before it happened. Inside the city, whispers of fear began to spread among the guards. Some tried to rush to the northern walls, while others hesitated, unsure of the unseen threat. Aracela moved among them, issuing precise instructions. She knew the Storm Riders' strength lay in misdirection, in exploiting confusion, and she would not allow them to gain an advantage. The night air was tense, charged with anticipation. Every rustle of leaves, every distant shout seemed magnified. Kaelin signaled to his men to pause, waiting for the perfect moment. The city was alert, but still unaware of the storm approaching from the north. Above the cliffs, Kaelin's gaze met the first faint glimmer of torchlight from the city's northern wall. The time for stealth was ending. The confrontation that would shape the fate of Valdereth was about to begin, and neither hunter nor hunted could predict who would gain the upper hand in the darkness of night. A sudden shout broke the silence along the northern wall. One of the city's sentries had spotted movement among the trees. Lady Aracela's eyes widened, but her composure did not falter. "Archers, ready your arrows," she commanded. "Do not fire until I give this signal." Kaelin froze, signaling his men to halt. The first wave had been detected, but the distraction had done its work. He adjusted their positions, ensuring the soldiers were hidden behind rocks and thick undergrowth. Tonight, every shadow was an ally, every silence a weapon on the battlements. Arrows were nocked, the faint creak of bowstrings echoing in the cold night air. Aracela watched, calculating the distance and timing of every movement below. The Storm Riders' skill was evident. They moved with precision, almost like a living shadow, blending seamlessly into the darkness. Kalen signaled two of his best warriors to advance closer to the wall. They moved swiftly, silent as the wind, testing the guards' vigilance. One misstep could cost them their lives, but Kalen's men were trained for such moments, hardened by years of survival and battle. Inside the city, tension gripped every soldier. The air seemed heavier, filled with anticipation. Whispers spread among the guards. "They are ghosts," one muttered. Another replied, "No army moves like this. It is the Storm Riders." Aracela listened, noting the fear, but refusing to let it weaken her resolve. As the first scout disappeared into the shadows near the northern wall, Kalen's eyes glimmered with determination. The night was alive with unseen danger, the dance between hunter and hunted intensifying. Every heartbeat counted, every decision carried weight, and the first true test of strategy and courage had begun. A sudden crack of a branch echoed through the northern edge of the city, and a young guard swung his torch toward the noise. His breath caught in his throat as he glimpsed a shadow darting between trees. Lady Aracela's eyes narrowed. "Steady. Do not fire until you are certain," she ordered, her voice cutting through the panic that threatened to spread. Kalen's warriors pressed closer, moving like whispers along the cliffside. The northern wall was within reach, and every step brought them nearer to their objective. Kalen's mind raced, anticipating the guards' reactions, calculating risks, and preparing contingencies. One mistake could ruin everything. Within the city, the tension mounted. Guards shifted nervously, some gripping weapons too tightly, others hesitating, unsure who to trust in the darkness. Aracela moved along the battlements, issuing precise commands, her eyes never leaving the tree line. The Storm Riders' approach was methodical. They were testing the city, probing for weakness. From the shadows, Kalen signaled his lieutenants. A small group broke away, slipping toward a less guarded section of the wall. Their steps were silent, the night swallowing their presence. The city believed it had control, but Kalen knew fear and uncertainty were already taking root. Aracela's hand rested on the hilt of her dagger, ready if the archer's arrows were not enough. She understood the Storm Riders' reputation. They were disciplined, patient, and ruthless when necessary. This night would not be decided by force alone, but by cunning and strategy. The wind shifted again, carrying distant sounds of movement from the cliffs. The first confrontation was imminent. Shadows clashed with torchlight, and the city's defenses would soon face the reality of a force it had long forgotten. Every choice, every step, every arrow loosed would echo in the fate of Valdereth. A sudden shout rang out from the northern wall as one of the guards finally spotted movement. Torches flickered wildly, revealing fleeting figures slipping through the darkness. Lady Aracela's heart pounded, but her voice remained steady. "Hold your ground. Fire only when they are within range." Kalen's warriors froze for a heartbeat, blending once more into the shadows. The first wave had been discovered, but the distraction had already weakened the city's focus. Kalen signaled a second group to advance silently along a narrow ridge, exploiting the momentary confusion. Every movement was calculated, every breath measured on the battlements. Arrows were drawn and aimed, the tension thick in the air. The guards were skilled, but the Storm Riders' approach was unlike anything they had faced before. Silent, disciplined, and relentless, they struck not with brute force, but with precision and cunning. Inside the city, Aracela moved swiftly, redirecting her archers to cover blind spots. "Do not panic. Use your training," she commanded, her mind racing as she predicted Kalen's next move. The clash was no longer a test. It was the beginning of a battle for the city's very survival. From the shadows, Kalen watched the guards adjust their positions. The city was reacting exactly as he had anticipated. He allowed a small smile. The first step of the Storm Riders' return was complete, but the night was far from over. Every choice now could tip the scales, and every second counted. The wind carried a tense stillness, the calm before the storm. Both hunter and hunted prepared for the next move, knowing that the outcome of these hours would shape Eldoria's destiny. The first true confrontation had begun, and neither side could turn back. The northern wall erupted in motion as arrows flew, meeting shadows that moved with uncanny precision. Kalen's warriors struck swiftly, disabling patrols and slipping past weak points. The clash was brief but calculated, each movement rehearsed over countless nights of training. Lady Aracela's heart raced as she watched the scene unfold. She gave sharp commands, redirecting archers and sending reinforcements to the compromised sections of the wall. Despite her efforts, the Storm Riders' skill and strategy were evident. They moved like phantoms, testing the city's defenses and exploiting hesitation. Kalen signaled his men to pull back slightly, leaving behind only the mark of their presence. Silent, invisible, yet deeply felt. This was not mere raiding, it was a statement. Valdoreth had been warned. The Storm Riders had returned, and the city's balance of power had shifted forever. Inside the council hall, Aracela exhaled slowly, though her mind raced with plans and contingencies. She understood that this night was only the beginning. The city had survived the first wave, but the real struggle was yet to come. Every decision, every alliance, and every move would now carry heavier consequences. From the cliffs beyond the city, Kalen watched the torches flicker, the city alive yet shaken. His eyes gleamed with determination. Tonight had proven the Storm Riders were no longer a legend. They were real, and their presence would be felt throughout Eldoria. As the first light of dawn began to break over Valdoreth, the city slept uneasily, unaware of the full storm that awaited them. Loyalties would be tested, secrets revealed, and the struggle for power had only just begun. The return of the Storm Riders marked the first chapter of a story that would echo through the ages, and the winds of change had already begun to rise.